Good evening. Welcome to the August 15th meeting of the Yakima School Board. Tenemos servicios de intérprete from Jorge with Language Connection. If you are in person tonight and need translation services, we have devices you can use. Please check in with Barb for an interpretation device. That's Barb right there.
Tenemos los sistemas de radio para si alguien necesita los radios para interpretación esta noche. Los tengo aquí en la ventana de la entrada. Gracias.
Thank you. Director Beckett, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You ready?
The August character word of the month is tenacious. The definition of tenacious is persistent in maintaining, adhering to, or seeking something valued or desired.
Thank you. I skipped a little part of my introductory words, so I'll finish those off now before we do the land acknowledgement. We do offer live streaming options for this meeting. You can find that link on the web page under Find It Fast, and then go to the Board of Directors. Go direct to www.ysd7.org/board-meetings. There are two options for public comment. The first option is for comment on agenda items only, and the second option toward the end of the meeting is for all other topics. And I do understand we have some folks here tonight that would like to speak to the board, and it's a non-agenda item, so there will be a bit of a wait till we get to the second comment period. So you may want to take the kids out and let them run a little bit before, if you need to do that. There are two documents to sign if you would like to speak tonight. There's a sign-in form, and then you need to read the guidelines for speaking to the school board and sign that you have read those guidelines. If you are interested in past meetings, you can find a link on our webpage to the YSD YouTube channel to view past meetings that were recorded and posted there. Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Director Beckett,
Here.
Director Navarro Jr.,
Present.
Director Rice,
Here.
Vice President Villanueva,
Here.
President Walker.
Here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll come back to, oh, here we go. We're ready for the land acknowledgement.
Today, the schools of the Yakima School District rest on the ancestral lands of the 14 confederated tribes and bands of the Yakima Nation.
The people of the Yakima Nation inhabited more than 12 million acres.
Across Adams, Benton, Chelan, Douglas, Franklin, Grant, Kittitas, Kitikat, and Yakima counties. Today, we honor the Native people who are tied to the land through history, legends, and cultures.
We acknowledge their descendants who live in the world today.
We thank the caretakers of this land who have lived here and continue to live here since time immemorial. An acknowledgement is a simple, powerful way to show respect.
And a step toward correcting the stories and practices that erase Indigenous peoples' history and culture.
It also honors the truth. As a school district, we'll continue to build upon our relations with the Yakima Nation.
And thanks to our students. At this time, we would like to take a moment of silence to honor the memory of Anita Chris DeMonbroom. Chris was a teacher at Martin Luther King and at Gilbert Elementary. She was a Crystal Apple Award recipient. Her obituary can be found on the district website. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Our district attorney, Bob Noe, has a couple of comments to make about some changes to tonight's agenda.
Thank you, President Walker, members of the board. The administration is asking that the board consider a motion this evening that would amend the agenda to remove item D8, approval to raise adult meal and milk pricing, and then to add the three items listed as 10, 11, and 12, which is approval of changes to policy 1400, approval of the 2023-24 board meeting calendar, and approval of the 2023-24 policy governance calendar. So I'd ask the board make a motion or consider that motion. Thank you.
Do I hear a motion from a board member to alter the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to make some alterations to the agenda. Is there any other discussion or comment from the board?
I have a question. What legal authority requires us to approve the policy governance calendar? We've never done that. That's just been a working document that the superintendent's office maintains.
Yeah, I think we discussed that earlier.
Yeah, I don't believe it's a legal requirement, but it would be for the board's consideration for its own purposes. It's not legally necessary, but for calendaring purposes, we're requesting it.
We can clarify that when it comes up on the agenda. That we don't necessarily need to approve it, we can just,
Well, we could just
Discuss it.
amend the motion to remove
we
number
could
12.
remove that from the approval portion. It doesn't need an approval. Okay.
You want a motion?
Do you want to amend the motion?
I move to amend the motion to remove item E12. Is that E? D is D12, D is in David, from the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
So moved and second to remove D12 from the agenda.
Discussion.
Any further discussion? Okay.
I'm getting a little confused here. I thought we were asking for a motion to approve additional items on the agenda.
Right, and we have a second motion to remove one of them.
To amend,
To amend that motion.
This is an amendment to
Okay.
to a
Yeah,
motion
I
that's
just
on
want
the
to get this
table.
clear because it's
Yeah.
kind of,
So to clarify, we're voting on the amended motion.
On the amendment,
Okay.
and then we vote on the motion, the
Okay.
amended motion.
Okay, so first we have to rule on the removal of D12, and then we vote on the amended motion.
okay, so, but just so we're clear, so we're just asking to add items for discussion, right? To
Right.
determine
Right.
whether or not to take action.
Right,
Okay.
because those will be action
But it
items.
seems like we're taking action now. on
We're
this.
taking action to remove one item.
Okay.
So a yes vote now would be to remove item D12. Does that make sense?
So
It
a
does.
ye-
I
a
would-
yes,
Yeah, go ahead.
a yes vote now eliminates discussion about item D12
Right.
on the agenda, correct?
Correct.
Yes, without a discussion. So I'm just wondering what
Do
the
we need to
superintendent has, what the rationale, I know he provided some rationale, so I'd like to have a discussion, at least have a discussion, and then we can decide on that, so
I
I
think
would
the
probably.
rationale is that when the agenda was built, or the changes to the agenda, that was put on as an approval item for the board, but the calendar for
Well, I'm
doing
sorry.
those does not require board approval. That's
Yeah,
just a
that-
working document.
Yeah, but I'd like to have that discussion where it's placed in the agenda, so, because it's not, right now is not the time to have the discussion on why we want it or not. you know what I mean, to approve it or not approve it, right?
It doesn't, it's to remove it. We're not going to discuss approval.
Okay, well, you have my, my thoughts on that then, so.
Okay, so any other comments or suggestions on that?
I guess I would be against removing it if it's the desire of the administration to have it approved by the board. I think we should at least have the discussion about it.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, so do we want the vote to remove, and a yes vote removes item D12, a no vote keeps it on the agenda, okay? All in favor?
We should do a roll. We should do a roll.
Do a roll call. Yeah.
That's what,
Director Beckett,
Nay.
Director Navarro Jr.,
Nay.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva,
Yes.
President Walker.
Nay. We'll go ahead and discuss it, so,
Motion fails.
okay. Moving on,
We still have to do.
we have to do the original motion, which is to add those other items to the agenda. Any further discussion of that? It has been moved and seconded. Okay, would you call the roll, please, Barb?
Director Beckett,
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva,
Yes.
President Walker.
Aye. Okay, we made it through that. Next up on our agenda, we have members of the board updates. Are there any updates for members of the board?
I have one. In today's email, you all should have received, the board members should have received notice from WASDA that the pamphlet, the handbook for General Assembly is available. There's a link in that email to access that handbook, which is on the WASDA website. And we'll have in an upcoming meeting, we'll have an opportunity to discuss the various proposals that are in that handbook. I'll be sending out, probably within the week, a document for you to identify your top 10 the document would be for you to say yes or no, you support that, these particular proposals. So essentially it'll be an Excel file with the proposal name, the location in the handbook, and a yes or no. Do you have any questions about that?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Any other updates from board members? I have a couple of short ones. One is I'd just like to celebrate the back-to-school event that was held at Franklin Middle School last Saturday. We had 850 or more parents and students attend, and it was a great opportunity. There were some informational classes for parents and students. Lots of pizza for everybody, and lots of pizza to take home, and backpacks for every student. So that was really a fun event. I was surprised at the turnout on a hot Saturday a hot Saturday day. That was really a wonderful turnout. The second thing I'd like to just confirm, we've discussed it 2 or 3 times since no one else has offered to be our board representative to WIAA. I will serve that role for the board. So that's my 2 updates. Moving on, we have our superintendent's. Oh, okay. You do.
I just want to mention that yesterday the board had a retreat, an all-day retreat, and all board members were in attendance, and there was 2 different facilitators for the retreat. In the morning, there was a trainer from our state school directors association, and she led some trainings around team building and how we can, well, it was really around our board self-evaluation and some good deep discussions around that and how board behaviors, how board group behaviors and values have a direct impact on student achievement. And so it was nice to see that research and that data presented to us. And then in the afternoon, we talked about additional topics around how we can work together as a board and with the school district leadership team more efficiently and effectively, and thought that the session was very productive and everyone was engaged and had a lot of really good comments and thoughtful conversations. So it was a good event. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to ditto those comments. I thought it was a very, very interesting and productive day. Superintendent Green is not with us tonight, so our Deputy Superintendent, Stacy Locke, will provide the superintendent's update.
Thank you very much, President Walker. Thank you very much, Director Villanueva. You gave me a great segue. I, too, would like to thank all of you for your participation with the cabinet yesterday. We had some fun. We could talk about drawings that we did, but I don't want to belabor the point.
You don't want to brag?
I don't want to brag about my drawing that somehow is framed somewhere. I've lost it. So we had a lot of fun. We worked hard. We were committed to the process. Everybody really participated well. And we had some difficult conversations and moved our way through that through collaboration and positive teamwork. And so thank you very much for a great day, a busy day, but an opportunity really for all of us to work together in the best interest of our students in the Yakima School District. Also, in the superintendent's update, I just want to remind us of the Yakima School District's equity definition. That would be the condition that would be achieved if one's group membership no longer predicted in a statistical sense how one fares. Equity is the outcome, not just access to opportunity. President Walker, that's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a few calendar updates and future agenda topics. August 21st, a reminder that that's the Welcome Back Day for staff, and that will be at the Convention Center. August 22nd is first day of school. I can see all our students out there are really excited about that. August 28th is our special board meeting with the Yakima City Council. Our September board meetings, Tuesday, September 5th, and Monday, September 18th, pending approval of the board calendar. September 9th, Hoptemberfest, the Yakima Schools Foundation Fall Fundraiser. Director Rice has already mentioned School Directors Association General Assembly in September. And the National School Board Association Conference is in New Orleans on April 6th and 8th, 2024, which is a long ways off, but the deadline for early registration is August 31st. So if any of our board members plan to attend, you need to make that decision soon. So, yes,
President Walker, just one more announcement for board members. On August 21st, during our Welcome Back Day, our main speaker will be there to present about 9:15. So if board members are wishing to attend, 9:15 would be the time. And again, parking will be at a premium. If you would like to join our shuttle, we will have bus shuttle from Davis and Ike starting at 7:45 and going to 8:45, if you're interested in that.
Okay. Thank you, Superintendent Locke.
Can I ask a clarifying question? The speaker begins at 9:15?
The speaker will begin at 9:20.
Okay,
So if you are in attendance by 9:15.
okay. And how long would that?
He's going to go from 9:20 to 9:35, so a little over an hour.
Okay.
Here's your microphone back.
Sorry, that's not what this
We're
says.
scheduled 9:30 to 11 a.m. We will kick it off with some staff introductions beginning at 9:15. Dr. Green will be speaking just after 9:30, and Dr. Louise Cruz from Solution Tree will be speaking from 9:45 to 10:45, and we expect to be concluded with the keynote by 11.
Okay, so 9:15 to 11 is the whole event? Okay,
Yes.
Thank you. I plan to be there.
Okay. Will we need to let Barb know if we plan to be there? Because if we have a quorum, we'll have to make sure we're aware of that. We have 4 attending, okay. So I plan to be there as well. So, okay, we will have a quorum then. Okay, next up we have Mr. Jay Cooper, our District Financial Officer.
Good evening, members of the board. And then, thank you, Barb. Right on cue. So this evening I'll be going through, this is the monthly financial report for your presentation and review. Of importance here, we're at year end, so enrollment counts stop in the month of June. So historically, we count from September to June, and we used to do September to May, but they added a 10th count a few legislative sessions back. So the enrollment numbers were as they were presented last meeting. However, just to point out, we are about 90 students off our initial projection over the year, so about 90 short of our annual average. So. Of importance here, of course, on the last slide, you will see our budget to actual. We have 1 month, so this has been a very busy month for the finance office. This is our beginning of our fiscal year end in the month of August. Just to make the board aware that we have been moving funds around, as an example, in a good way. We have a large curriculum adoption where we were invoiced, and those goods have been received in the district for almost $5 million. That was passed several meetings ago. To that end, we also were able to draw down our ESSER funds in the same month. So we will not have a huge drop in our cash, which is important. So in this case, I'm talking about how we're managing our cash from within the current month. So of most importance, as you know, month after month, I keep telling you that I'm trying to get cash up to that magical $30 million mark. And as you can see, thank you, Barb, keep going. There is the stubborn cash flow graph. And the goal has been to, as you can see, the trough of the cash flow throughout the year, just to go on the record, is when the district transferred $5 million to the Capital Projects Fund to fund Discovery Early Learning Center. We have one more draw of about $2.5 million, and then August apportionment. So fiscal year end, my initial cash projections had us at about $33.5 million. We're going to be right at that $30 million mark, or very close, which sets up the proposed budget that was reviewed last meeting. So again, that's why I'm accentuating that, because I wanted to make sure you knew that our approximate cash position would be where I told you it was going to be when we had our budget hearing and our conversations about our fund balance moving from approximately 30 million down to approximately 15. So I just want to make sure as you go in, because I know you have a pending action for the budget approval later in the agenda item, or later in the agenda, but I wanted to make sure as you go forward with that you're comfortable with the current cash position, because that is part of your obviously your thought process. So, and then, Barbara, if you don't mind going to the ESSER slides, on the remaining ESSER 3 slides, as you can see, we have the total amount encumbered. There's about $400,000 left. That remaining encumbrance are what is left for portions of the Discovery Project in particular. So ESSER 3, and this is not the learning loss portion, that is the next slide, has a $433,000. And Barbara, if you take us to the last slide on the deck, there you go. That is the 20%, so we often refer to it as Jenny's pot of money, but it's a teaching and learning pot of money that we have used to accelerate and continue to buy curriculum and move curriculum instruction forward. As you can see, there's the encumbered amount for just over $5 million, and there's a $2.2 million balance, which we will round out as we move forward with future curriculum adoptions. But that will then fully expend all of Yakima School District's ESSER funding, which totaled close to $90 million over a 3-year period. Any questions on your cash position, your ESSER? And then on enrollment, just briefly, I know it is not in the packet, but of course a huge driver of everything we do. Enrollment is, I think, we're about 100 to 150 below projection right now, which is actually very good because we continue to get children every day. Both here downtown in the office and now at the school buildings as they've opened up and support staff have returned. So I'm optimistic that we'll be very close, if not slightly above projection, which of course is also important as you move to adopt your budget. Any questions on the monthly financial report? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Okay, we have now arrived at the first comment section on the agenda. Is there anyone that signed up for comment on agenda items? Okay. Moving on, next up is consent agenda. The The consent agenda consists of approval of minutes of previous meetings for the month, notification of approval of warrants for July, approval of personnel actions, and the budget status report for July. Are there any board member who'd like to remove any item from the consent agenda for further discussion?
Yes, I would like to remove personnel actions as a separate, for a separate action, during which time I will recuse myself.
Oh, okay. Do we need a motion on that, or we just do that? We just do that, yeah. Okay, so we'll discuss personnel action separately. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
I move to approve the consent agenda with the removal of the personnel action items number 4.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any other question or discussion about the agenda? Okay, Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Director Beckett?
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.?
Aye.
Director Rice?
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva?
Aye.
President Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, we will now approve the personnel actions separately, and Director Navarro will be recusing himself. I understand, I believe in the personnel list, there is a relative in the list, so,
Yes, I'd like to recuse myself.
yes.
Yes.
Okay, so,
I move that we approve the personnel actions as submitted.
okay, second, is there a second?
Second.
It's approved and second to accept the personnel actions as submitted. Or any other discussion or question? Okay, Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Director Beckett?
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.?
He's recused.
Recused, okay.
Yes, yes.
Director Rice?
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva?
Aye.
And President Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0 to 1 for the recuse.
Can we now have a number of approvals? We'll begin with Mr. Cooper.
This is the Jake Cooper show.
Yes, we have about, let's see, four items from Mr. Cooper.
I'm sure that my other cabinet colleagues are thankful that my name is on the end of those instead of theirs. So as I begin, before you, the first two I'd like you to just to think about together. Obviously, your actions are separate. They are legally required resolutions or actions before you. The first is the authorized signatory, which delegates who in the organization can and is a binding agent of the district and can sign, for lack of a better description, can sign contracts and approve things in the absence of the superintendent. So I would, of course, this is being updated as we had a departure of Dr. Darling, and he is no longer an authorized signator, as he is the superintendent of Grandview. So that is the reason why we're bringing you this evening for your consideration. Are there any questions?
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the designation?
Individually, one at a time.
Yeah.
Move that we approve Resolution 10.22.23, authorized signatory.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 112223. Any questions or discussions? Barb, call the roll, please.
Director Beckett?
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.?
Aye.
Director Rice?
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva?
Yes.
President Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, again, Mr. Cooper.
And again, the second resolution before you, 112223, is required by the Yakima County, where we designate the auditing and investment officers. So if you see the body of the resolution designates myself, Monette Dennis, Susan Fate, and Sherry Chapman, who are all business office directors and report to me. And this is what the county, of course, needs as we move paperwork, for lack of a better description, back and forth. They need to know who has the authorized signatory ability within the business office for warrants and payroll, et cetera. And so Yakima County requests that this gets updated annually, and that's why it's before this body this evening. Are there any questions on designation of the auditing and investment officers for the school district.
Any questions? Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I move that the board approve Resolution 11.22.23, designation of auditing and investment officers.
Hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 11.22.23. Any further question or discussion? Okay, Barb, call the roll, please.
Director Beckett?
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.?
Aye.
Director Rice?
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva?
Yes.
President Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Next up, we have Mr. Cooper again with Resolution 12.22.23, adopting the 23-24 budget.
Though this resolution is in your approval pile, it is the culmination of a years-long worth of work for my department and most of our departments around the school system. And so what you are requesting you take action upon is the adoption of your 2023-24 budget. The resolution before you sets the appropriation level or the expenditure level of each fund within your budget. The district cannot exceed this appropriation level without going back to you for authorization. So when you set the budget, or the appropriation level, it is set by you all, and it cannot be altered or exceeded unless we go to you for approval. There has been no additional public comments to my office or to any other of my stakeholders that I have reached out to since our last meeting, where we had quite a lengthy presentation on the proposed budget before you this evening. And I would recommend an adoption of the resolution before you to be able to set our budget for the 2023-24 school year, which does comply with all your current policies and procedures relating to minimum fund balance and other appropriation levels. So I know that's a very short presentation, but again, this is a culmination of many reviews and lots of examination by the board and other stakeholder groups and my staff and colleagues. And then, of course, your review and questioning and fiduciary responsibility that you exhibited last meeting when we went through a lengthy presentation on the finances. So if there are any questions, I know this is the culmination of a lot of work, but at the same time, if I'm available here for any questions or concerns you have for adoption of your budget for 23-24.
I'm wondering if, just for the purposes of the viewing audience, we could just do a brief rundown of this coming year's budget.
Yes. Sure.
Would that be possible?
Yeah, I can likely do it from memory, so that'll be fine. What is happening currently in the proposed budget before the board of directors is our anticipated beginning fund balance, or how much money we have in the bank to start the year in September, will be approximately $30 million. The budget before the board of directors has a deficit of approximately $14.5 million, which means by the end of the year, we'll spend about half of our savings account. To that end, the district will be taking measures mid-year to be able to lessen that deficit as we move forward. For example, taking advantage of attrition and other savings as we'll execute throughout the year, in order to lower that deficit as we move into planning for fiscal year 2024-25. Enrollment being the biggest driver of our deficit, and Yakima School District should be complimented because we have held off on reducing program for many, many years. And was demonstrated to the board of directors last meeting is that our staffing levels have increased in some cases by, I wish I had that number in my head. Don't have it in my head. Our enrollment is down nearly 8%, and in some cases our staffing levels were up double or triple that.
This overall staffing level has gone up by about 150 employees in the last 4 years, while student population has dropped by 940 students, creating more expenses with less income, which is why there are adjustments to the budget and to staffing positions. So I don't want to steal your show.
No,
but
no,
it has-
I couldn't remember, I was trying to remember exactly what those, what is it?
18% classified.
So during the same time period, our enrollment has dropped approximately 1,000, or down 8%, but our staffing for classified, for example, went up 18. And our cert staffing, I believe, was just under 8. Yes.
8 or 9 is what Jenny said, because she, just for the recording, was
Yep. And so to that end, we are facing decline in enrollment. Right now, we are watching carefully our kindergarten class, our class numbers, our cohort size. This morning, I was examining enrollment, and I had projected about 1,000 kindergartners, right around 850 or so. So we're still short in kindergarten. But what is interesting, and that you can see plainly, is that our largest class, which is our current senior class, is close to 1,600. It was 1,580, and I have a kindergarten class now of about 850. Now kindergarten class will continue to grow, and I anticipate it'll be very close to 1,000, but as you can see, we have large classes leaving between 13 and 1,500, and our inbound classes currently are between, well now, let's say 900 and 1,150 or 1,200. So each year, when we have 200 or 300 extra kids leave out the top and graduate, and we have smaller kids coming in, we are shrinking in enrollment. And so that's why we are facing a budget deficit, which we will actively manage downward, and throughout this year, provide solutions and our options to our stakeholders and our board of directors as the goal of eliminating deficit spending the following fiscal year and starting to rebuild our reserves as is prudent and necessary. Was that high enough level for you, Director
I
Rice?
think so, yeah. From your conversations with your workalikes around the state, is this drop in enrollment an anomaly for Yakima, or are other districts seeing similar, fewer, larger enrollment drops?
There are many in our position. In fact, we are probably a year, 18 months behind some of my colleagues, as they've already had to execute large reductions, close school facilities, et cetera. Post-pandemic, the state had lost at its peak around 45,000 FTE. So to put that in perspective, that would be like losing 3 Yakima school districts across the state. So 15,000 approximately apiece. So 45,000 students and their families made alternative choices during the pandemic and then post-pandemic. State FTE has not rebounded, both from a lower birth rate and the continuation and the growth of other alternatives such as homeschool or private education. Those are both up in Washington State post-pandemic. So we are in good company, whether you're eastern or western Washington, rural or urban, poor or wealthy, reductions have been had and are continuing to be had around the state. So it is driven for the most part by enrollment decline and then the sunsetting of ESSER funds for some districts who relied on them for personnel costs, which we did not. We used them for one-time expenditures that have moved our organization forward in a myriad of different ways. And which, when ESSER is complete, I imagine we'll have to do some report out on the completion of ESSER. But for the most part, we are not alone, Director Rice, and resource management is both important on the upswing and then also when you have to downsize an organization. It's just it is more difficult, obviously, on the down than the up. So
And ESSER is complete next August, is that correct?
I believe that is the final timeline, is either September or August of '24.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes. Yep. Sorry, Graciela.
Couple questions for me, and I'm putting myself in the shoes of the community. I heard you say that while enrollment has gone down for the last 4 years, we've continued to increase staff. At face value, that sounds irresponsible. I know those were very intentional decisions that were made. Can you talk a little bit about why those decisions were made and the kinds of supports that increase in staff provided to the students?
So a portion of the increase in staff was driven by changes in state statute. K-3 class size is one to think about. It was a driver. Also the physical and social and emotional support funding that did drive up some of our staffing. The other thing that Yakima did that drove up your FTE was the elongation of the paraeducator day. If you recall, it was increased by half an hour, and if you spread that half an hour across all the paraeducators, that's about 30 FTE more in labor. So part of that was done, of course, at the bargaining table, but also to further district work, and give paras an additional half an hour at the job site, and maybe you can talk about that, Anthony, sorry. I wasn't here for that one completely, so.
For lack of a better term, it is less expensive to work a paraeducator through the start of the workday and the end, like bus service, and other start or end of day process than it is to have certificated staff. So the business decision was to extend their day by a half hour. That, again, multiplied over the amount of people in the unit comes out to FTE, and for those of you, FTE means full-time employee, so the employee's hours divided by 2,080 hours in a year would make that determination, but that's the reason why. So it's the safety of the kids coming off the bus, coming into school day, traffic control, all of the breakfast before the bell, all of the items that have been mandated that we need to take care of. We deal with that with classified employees as opposed to a certificated teacher. It's less expensive, but it's still necessary.
Thank you.
And then our other investments would be in the safety and health arena, both on the nursing side and on the security side, both. So those two areas in particular, both obviously before the pandemic, but during the pandemic and then post-pandemic were essential. Obviously, some of that we'll have to reevaluate going forward, but those are some of the biggest investments we made were in health and safety. And of course, now we're faced with trying to determine how long and at what levels do those programs continue and in what form. But those were the main drivers for our staffing investments over the time period.
Thank you. And my second question, again, putting myself in the shoes of the community, in the budget report presentation, you shared that Yakima School District got $90 million in ESSER funds, and now we're talking about a $15 million deficit in the budget. So can you help explain the limitations of ESSER and how that does or does not apply to the budget?
In this case, ESSER was released to school districts across the nation in basically 3 chunks or tranches, or 3 installments. The first 2 had basically the same rules, and then the third, as you saw, has an 80% or 20% set aside for learning loss and 80% for traditional ESSER. ESSER had very, very loose rules from the federal government. It was meant to provide funding for school districts to recover from the pandemic and also weather the pandemic as it was going on, because remember, we got funds during the pandemic. But ESSER funds were one time. So similar to your bank account, the school district did not want to utilize those funds for significant and ongoing expenditures. So as we move through the ESSER funding, the district was able to procure buildings for the health, Howie, as an example, where we're able to finish off the Davis Auditorium, which was also allowable use of ESSER funds, expand and will be completing Discovery Early Learning, and then huge amounts of curriculum, and then also one-time labor costs for project-based employment. Am I missing anything? Because I did come in the
Summer
middle of
school?
your ESSER fund. Oh, that's
Summer
right,
school.
extended learning opportunities.
In intercession and other opportunities to be able to make up for learning loss that are all labor-driven. So we didn't invest in new employees, but we invested in additional hours towards students who were suffering because of the pandemic and lower grades. So what we saw in the last 3 years was intercessions that were paid for with ESSER and summer school, where the first year that Trevor and some of us came into this, we didn't have a summer school because we didn't have the funding for it. So that was also a big
Unless we
driver.
forget laptops and hotspots
And the Wi-Fi setup so that students had access, as well as the replacement of some of our HVAC units. So there was a tremendous amount of infrastructure, and that was all utilized with ESSER dollars.
But the takeaway, though, the real takeaway is that ESSER funding was meant to be supplemental and not to be ingrained in the district's operations on an ongoing basis. So it's one-time funding, which if not disciplined can, let's say, for example, we were using $10 million a year to fund teachers. Well, that is not an ongoing revenue stream that we've attached to ongoing labor expenses. So ideally, your CFO and your cabinet that serves you wants to align ongoing expenditures with ongoing revenue. And so that's the goal. But if you have one-time revenue, you want it to be one-time expenditures. I know it sounds rather rudimentary, but districts and businesses alike often get sucked into using that one-time money for ongoing operations, which is something we do not want to do. So I know it can be a little counterintuitive. You had nearly $90 million, and now you have an operating deficit. But the reality is those funds were supplemental and one-time, and we should not be using them for ongoing operations. And that's where it can be a bit confusing.
Thank you.
You bet.
President Walker, I want to say thank you to Jake and the Financial Services Office for the work on this budget over the last number of months. I also want to point out, as we have all discussed, if we look at the second slide of Jake's presentation tonight, that 5-year enrollment number has been sliding for 5 years. I mean, this train has been coming towards us for a long time, and it is not fair to throw it at the feet of loss of enrollment because of COVID or anything else. This is something that's coming down the line, and we have found ourselves in the point of hitting the point of deficit spending, which is not something I'm excited about. Regardless of that, I move that the Board of Directors approve Resolution 12.22.23, adopting the 2023-24 budget.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 12.22.23. Any other question or comment from the board?
I too want to add my congratulations and thanks to Jake and the Financial Services team. I know this is a big slog to get to this point in developing a school district's budget, especially a school district of our size. And please extend to your team our congratulations and thanks for making this the best budget that we could expect given the situation that the state is in and that the federal government is in and that we are in.
Thank you, Martha. And I want to say this is it's probably like the 22nd budget I prepared for school districts, 23rd. And this one was an honor, and it was also great because I was able to work with colleagues across the system and put in new staffing systems. We had great conversations about resource allocation. So it's an honor to prepare your budget with the assistance of all my colleagues and folks in the business office. And this is a year of transition, as some budget years are. And we'll come back in 24-25 and hopefully erase the deficit and move forward in a stable and prudent fashion. So thank you.
Again, thank you. Any other comments from the board or questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Cooper, and thank our board for asking pointed and important questions. So,
I'll just reiterate my comments from our last meeting when we had the fuller presentation, echoing Director Beckett's comments around discomfort approving a deficit budget. Thank you.
okay, thank you. That said, there is a motion on the floor. It's been moved and seconded to approve the budget. Barb, you want to call the roll, please?
Director Beckett?
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.?
Aye.
Director Rice?
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva?
Abstain.
President Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, next up on our agenda, we have approval to dispose of surplus property. Jake?
Oh, hello again. So annually before you as a resolution authorizing the disposition of surplus property throughout the school year. This is a resolution that is needed both legally and, of course, for our auditors as they come in and make sure we are disposing of property that was procured with public funds in an appropriate and legal manner. Obviously, I recommend a do adopt resolution. Do adopt on this resolution as we have perpetually surplusing and disposing of items, and we need that authorization from the board to continue to be able to do that. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Jake? Do I hear a motion?
I move the adoption of, I don't see a resolution number here. I move that the Board of Directors declare equipment, supplies, furniture, and other district property obsolete and/or surplus throughout the 23-24 school year, and these items be surplused through the most advantageous process for the district.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve disposal of surplus property. Any other questions or discussions? Okay, Barb, call the roll, please.
Director Beckett?
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.?
Aye.
Director Rice?
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva?
Aye.
President Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Moving now to Dr. Rodriguez, and we have a couple items regarding some contracts.
Thank you, Board President Walker. Members of the board, we have just a couple of routine approvals, as we do for outside contractors when we are not able to fill all of the positions needed for the services required by our students. The first is approval to renew our contract with Career Links for this school year. We have previously contracted with them in prior school years. We're seeking approval to contract with Career Links for the 23-24 school year in the amount of $1.2 million. These services are specifically for speech language pathology services to support students with documented special needs. Again, these are services that are in students' individualized education plans or IEPs. We have posted these positions again this year, as we do annually, in an effort to hire the necessary staff. However, our current need exceeds the amount of services we're able to provide with the staff that we have been able to hire. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve or renew the contract with Career Links for 23-24. Any other questions or discussion?
I just have a comment with this contract and others that I think have been for speech and language pathology services. It's a lot of money, and I understand that it's a service that we have to provide. I know we've done some work around pipeline building for our parapros and teacher positions, and wonder if there's perhaps opportunity, consideration for opportunities to build some pipeline programs for the speech and language pathologists as well. It's such a critical position and expensive to farm out, and so it'd be wonderful to be able to build up our internal pipeline. Thank you.
Yeah. And just comment on that, that's a statewide problem that many districts are struggling with. And one of the issues in Washington State is the lack of graduate level programs to train speech language pathologists. And so it's a huge problem statewide, and that drives the need to contract outside. So it's unfortunate, but it's a master's level program that is, I think, only offered by one institution in the entire state. So it's a real challenge for all districts. That's it. Any other comments or questions? Okay, Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Director Beckett?
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.?
Aye.
Director Rice?
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva?
Aye.
President Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
And next up, we also have approval to renew a contract with ASL, American Sign Language Professionals, for the coming school year. Dr. Rodriguez?
Yes, very similar to the last request, Board President Walker, members of the board. This is again a request to renew the contract with ASL Professionals. This contract is to provide American Sign Language interpretation for our students as required by their individualized education plans. The impact of this one is $880,000. Again, we do post all of these positions annually in an effort to retain additional staff in these high needs areas. this is the amount that we're anticipating we will need to have contracted in order to meet the IEP's requirements under the law for this year. Again, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? Seeing none, do I hear a motion?
I move that the board grant approval to contract with ASL Professionals for the 23-24 school year in the amount of $880,000 to provide American Sign Language services to support students with special needs.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve or to renew the contract with ASL Professionals. Any other question or discussion? Barb, call the roll, please.
Director Beckett?
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.?
Aye.
Director Rice?
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva?
Aye.
President Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
And now we defer back to Mr. Cooper again. We have an approval for grocery, cleaning, and paper supply purchase for 2023-24.
Thank you, President Walker. So before you this evening is approval of grocery cleaning and paper supplies for the 2023-24 school year. These are for your school lunch program and breakfast program as well. And we are procuring these on what we like to call a piggybacked agreement or interlocal agreement through the Puget Sound Joint Purchasing Cooperative. So I would recommend a do pass and move this forward so we can continue our procurement of our required items for the National School and Lunch Program.
Do I hear a motion from the board?
I move that the board approve the Child Nutrition Department to purchase groceries, cleaning, and paper supplies from U.S. Foods for the National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program for approximately $2 million for the 2023 and 24 school year.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve this purchase. Do I hear any other question or discussion? Barb, call the roll, please.
Director Beckett?
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.?
Aye.
Director Rice?
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva?
Aye.
President Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Next up, we have approval to raise the prices for
Did we-
adult meals and milk pricing.
President Walker, I think we removed that item from the
Oh,
agenda.
that's the one that was removed? Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Milk purchase would be next.
Milk purchase is still up.
Yes, Director.
Okay.
Correct.
Gotta have our milk. Okay, approval of milk purchase for the 23-24 school year.
So before you this evening, as required per policy, any expenditure or contract greater than $500,000 we brought to the Board of Directors. And as President Walker said, we do need our milk with our lunch. So you just approved the $2 million request for groceries for U.S. Foods. However, this is our annual milk expenditure, and you can see that it is rather significant, but believe it or not, that is a lot of milk. And it is not 1% chocolate, apparently non-fat, as I confirmed today. But again, brought this before your consideration, and this is part of your National School and Breakfast Lunch Program.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the Child Nutrition Department to purchase milk from Springbrook Farms for the National School Lunch and School Breakfast programs for approximately $857,850 for the 2023-24 school year.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve next year's milk purchase. Any other questions or discussion?
What question, do we offer non-dairy alternatives to milk for our students?
I would say yes. And it also depends upon if there's a specific dietary request submitted to the food service department, but yes, we do.
Is the only way to get a non-dairy alternative to milk is if there's a special dietary request? Is that what you said, or?
That is one way to assure that you have
Okay.
the alternative. I'd have to ask our food service director or
Sure.
somebody who used to supervise the department sitting to my left. Deputy Locke, do you have any idea on the day? I'm not sure if it's available daily, but I know it's available once we create a special meal plan for the student.
I'm sorry, so dairy is not, non-dairy milk alternative is not generally available unless it's specifically requested through a diet plan.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Director Beckett,
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva,
Aye.
President Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. We will all have our white mustaches next year. Okay, approval of the changes to policy 1400. In your packet is one copy of that with corrections or additions made in red, and then the other copy is the proposed new policy.
Director,
Yeah.
President Walker?
Yes.
We typically approve policies in a two-step process with first reading and second reading. Are we not doing that with this one?
We can do a first reading today. We had it on for approval, but probably have forgotten that we do that in a two-step. I think it's because we discussed it as our retreat. This was a discussion item in our retreat, so.
However, we could suspend that first step if the board so does desire, and considering that this, I mean, it's immediately effective, right?
It's immediately effective and in
So,
my
I mean, that's the kind of the bind we're in, I think, and I think that's why we decided to put it for a vote today.
And in my thinking, it served as a first reading, because we did go over the policy yesterday as part of the,
It was, the meeting was not, was neither broadcast, was not broadcast as is our typical process. And it wasn't announced as a first reading in the agenda for yesterday's meeting.
okay, so,
President Walker, if I may?
yes.
It was considered a public board meeting yesterday and was documented as such. Additionally, we have a need to approve the calendar tonight so that we can meet the requirements set before us for our constituents. The approval of this policy will impact our ability to vote on the calendar.
I'm comfortable based off of the conversation we had at the retreat yesterday, and I'd move that we approve the edits to policy 1400 as presented.
It's been moved.
I would second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the amendments to policy 1400. Any further discussion or question?
Yes, I have several questions. Let me see if I can find the right file here. We have two documents attached to the agenda. One is the markup from the last time this was approved, and one is an approval, is the cleaned up version
Correct.
as of tonight. I know this was on the agenda for yesterday. We did not get this document until yesterday, so we've had very little time to review it. In addition to that, I don't believe that there was sufficient discussion time available because we rushed it to get through everything on the agenda by the end of the meeting. This document, I can get it large enough that I can see it. This document identifies that we are moving our board meetings from their current identified day of the month to a myriad of days of the month, depending on what month we're in. In addition, it adjusts it requires that we have only 2 meetings a month, and down from, I think at one point it said 4 meetings a month. I don't believe that 2 meetings a month provides us with the time sufficient to accomplish the work that we have to accomplish. And by going to 2 meetings a month, it makes our meetings extremely long. By requiring that we had every business meeting on the 3rd Tuesday of the month. By changing that, we are forcing people to either take additional steps to try to find out when the business meeting is. I think that's a disservice to the community, to staff, and to anyone else who wants to participate in our meetings. Additionally, I think there's a change in the language for posting meeting information for emergency meetings. And I'm not sure that language is the same language as is identified in state law or WAC, wherever that happens to land. I appreciate that we have to notify the community of when of the change in this policy and the changes to our calendars. I'm just thinking that I just don't recall in the past where that's been a requirement that we have to comply with. I'd like to know where that requirement lies. I don't believe it's a state law that we have to have our annual calendar of our meetings approved before the end of August. I could be wrong. I'm just not ready to approve the policy changes that are presented to us in this policy tonight. In addition to the fact that the changes to this policy and approval of this policy are not following the rules that we have set in the past for approving policies.
Okay, thank you, Martha. Any other comments? Questions?
So I'll just add, while I generally support the changes that are made here, it does seem somewhat rushed. We didn't see this document yesterday, and discussion would have ended at 4 p.m. yesterday, and so it seems quite rushed and different from our standard process. And again, while I generally support these changes, I think it would be prudent for us to follow the process that we've used for years in evaluating policy changes. Simply just giving time to review the edits and ensure that there isn't any other changes, or that it's clear enough, that the edits are clear enough for us as we move forward. It seems a little sudden.
I would, I guess, offer up that, these changes first started being discussed almost a year ago, after my first experience at a WASDA conference discussing with other board members around the state how often other boards meet and for how long they meet. It was readily apparent very quickly that our board meets more often than any other board that I came in contact with. And as we've discussed that going down the road, I know that, or at least I shouldn't say no, my understanding is that there have been cabinet level discussions with board members looking at our calendar, and that our facilitator who led our retreat, our full-day retreat in March, and our retreat again yesterday, had discussions with individual board members. So I don't perceive this as coming as a surprise to me, anyway, as the administration has worked to formulate the proposal. My question is, just like Martha's question, Director Rice's question, with the calendar in particular, and maybe Deputy Locke, you might be able to answer this. My understanding is that the district wants to know, for lack of a more eloquent phrase, when are we meeting throughout the year? Can you elaborate on that, please? Sorry.
I can ask Barb to elaborate on that. Barb, can you elaborate on that a little bit, please?
Certainly. There are unions that meet that need to know when our board meetings are scheduled for. There are a lot of different groups our teachers need to know, our students need to know. I've been asked by multiple groups to post our upcoming meetings so we know when to approve certain items. We have reports to the board that need to be prepared by our directors and our assistant superintendents, and so it's pertinent that they have deadlines to meet with the upcoming ends reports, deadlines, and different department reports.
Our next meeting is the 31st of this month.
Right.
Our next meeting is the 29th of this month.
29th.
How
28th.
is any of that impacted by a move to table this discussion until the 29th?
Yeah, is there any reason we could not produce that calendar for our constituents by September? Is that going to be?
The meeting on August 28th is actually a joint meeting with the Yakima City Council.
Right.
And we have a set agenda on that without action items, but we can always add an action item if need be.
The city
haven't
has done
posted
that
that?
before.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
For
could,
their portion of the meeting, they've had in the past action items that they've had to deal with.
Sure. That makes sense. And we haven't posted the agenda yet, so that would be manageable.
so we could table
Yes,
this.
that would be fine.
We could table it and do this at the 28th meeting. And that would also, I think that would entail the board meeting calendar as well. That's the second approval item, so.
If we do that and we decide to move forward in that direction, which I don't support doing that, let's keep in mind that as a parent of the school district, I've already received in my mail the very nicely produced district calendar hanging in our breakfast room, and it would be nice if we could do this in the future to where those meetings are scheduled far enough advance to where they could be reflected on that calendar for parents and guardians throughout the district to be aware of them in advance.
That said, this delaying 1 week will not impact that calendar because it's already out anyway. So, but I think for future reference.
I thought there was a fire alarm or something. I have one more question.
Sure.
On the calendar itself, since we may be tabling both of these actions till then. There are 2 meetings identified in every month except July, and we know why that is. But in November only shows 1 meeting.
Right, on October 30th, it's really the first week of November. So we have 3 in October and 1 in November.
I
And you know,
I would suggest that even though we have one in October that probably could maybe slide in and count as a meeting in November, that new policy says 2 meetings a month. And I'm assuming that that would mean calendar month and not the week.
It
There-
does state
In the
there.
past, we have been able to have a meeting after Thanksgiving on that last week of November. And that would align with where many of our second meetings is on that last week. I just don't think we'll have enough time to do what we need to do with one meeting in November.
well, the meeting in October, like Barb said, functions in a sense is not technically in November, but it's the 30th of October. There are 2 other meetings in October.
I don't want to set us up for
So-
someone calling us on violating our policies.
I would rather run the risk of violating the policy than having the district sitting here wondering, what in the world are we doing next year?
Yeah. So,
We can kick the can down the road as long as we want to, but at some point in time, we have to, just decide, does this work or not? And a 2-day difference based on the language isn't going to get us in trouble.
and I think the rationale is, you look at the vacation, that week in November used to be 2 days off. Now it's a full week off. And so that alters how that week looked. That's the one thing, that's another thing that makes it difficult to adhere to the old policy of every 3rd Tuesday of the month, because there are now 3rd Tuesdays of the month fall during vacation times or downtime. So it's like, I think I'm more comfortable with a policy that has flexibility of 2 meetings a month and not being locked into a particular day, because we end up having to change that anyway. And in terms of making it accessible to our public, and once we've published a calendar, the calendar's there, so it's accessible. And other than when we have folks that have a really burning issue for them, we don't have a lot of our public at board meetings anyway. It'd be nice to have them there, but I just don't see that as an issue if we have regularly scheduled meetings that's scheduled out for the year. I'm pretty comfortable with, and the other part I'm comfortable with is that we are working really hard to streamline our meetings so that we are streamlining the reports that we receive, we're streamlining the approval processes so that meetings can be shorter. And I think we've made a lot of strides in that area, and we can continue to do that. So I'm
Just pointing out a potential policy violation.
well,
Might I offer you a suggestion
Yeah.
to consider? Just as you acknowledge that we do not have 2 meetings in the month of July, you can adopt this policy, this calendar, if you so choose. I don't have a say-so in that, so I really want to be clear. I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes, but you could also make the reference of 2 meetings per month, with the exception of July and October. October accounting for the lack of business time in the month of November. It would be adopting the same calendar with the addition of those words to clarify July and October, and therefore you can still be in compliance with your policy. You made your motions, you could do whatever you like. I'm hoping that's a solution. If it is not, I apologize for overstepping my bounds.
well, and I would think we could also put a phrase in the policy that provides for some flexibility for circumstances where calendars change from year to year in terms of where days fall within a month and all those kinds of things. If you're building a long-term policy, you're going to always have exceptions, and so I think it would be more useful to say we have to stick to that part of a policy, is just say that there is flexibility to provide extra meetings as needed. That's still in the policy, that if we need more meetings, we can always schedule another meeting.
I think the policy draft as written allows that flexibility already. It says twice a month, except as board or president may otherwise determine. So I think we have that flexibility built in, but I think this whole discussion really highlights the need to stick with the process of first and second reading of the policy. So if this acts as first reading, then we have second reading at our next meeting, and we've stuck with our process, and we still are able to meet the needs of the district.
If I may,
forward.
if I may add, that's correct. The policy already has the flexibility to go away from the 2 per month if necessary. So, but obviously, if you want to read it more and look at it more, that's fine too, but it already has it built in.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? We do have a motion on the floor.
So I do have a comment to make. So I do support the changes to, the overall change and the aim of the intent of the policy to reduce the number of meetings per month. And that's something that, as Director Beckett has mentioned, we've been discussing for the last year or so. And we had 2 retreats, during which time we took deep dives into that. And there was, I believe, agreement yesterday to move forward with that, with the changes. You know, I've been on the board for, I don't know, lost track, 16 years or so. So this is going to be a challenge for me. And I have some of the same reservations as Martha does in terms of, are we going to be able to get through our agendas? But I think that we'll be able to do that. I think that we need to be, that the board can be more effective and more efficient in use of our time. And our presentations can be more concise. They could be more clear. We could do a deeper dive at the beginning during the week, right, rather than coming in and doing that dive during the meeting. So we could do a lot of prep work. And we had that discussion yesterday, so I'm in support of reducing the number of meetings per month. And I believe that we can be just as effective, if not more effective. And I also had those conversations with colleagues across the state. There are districts that are far larger than ours that have 1 meeting per month. And if they're able to conduct business, then I believe that we can do that, be effective as a board, having 2 meetings. Again, I'm going to challenge myself because it is change, and I'm having some discomfort with the change, because I know as a board we like to, we have a lot of energy, we have a lot of passion about a lot of the issues that come before the board, and we want to have full discussions, and I just want to be cautious about that. I'm going to be keeping my eye on that to make sure that we don't lose that. So I think that's the danger with going forward with this new idea and reducing the number of hours we spend together. And so, but I think overall we can be more effective and more efficient in the use of our time. Also, we discuss, which is a good point, the use of our staff time, the superintendent time, and also the cabinet of the superintendents. It does take a lot of time and effort, and not just from them, but their staff and individuals within our departments to put together data, reports, and so forth. So I believe that going with the reduced number of meetings per month would benefit not only the board, but also the district as a whole. Thank you.
Could we have Barb read the motion back, please?
Barb, could you read the motion back, please?
That the Board of Directors approves the edits to Policy 1400 as presented.
Okay.
It was motioned by Ryan Beckett
Second.
and seconded by Raymond Navarro Jr.
And through that, just kind of sum up through our discussion, the question I would have is, technically, yes, we could, it kind of rushes the first reading, second reading process, but like Director Beckett and Director Navarro said, we've been discussing this for a long time, and yesterday's was a little rushed, but it served for me the function of a first reading. And the question I would throw out and ask is, by tabling it now, is it going to change where any of us stand on this issue? We could table it to next week, and we could bring it all up again. Is it going to change, answer in your own conscience, is it going to change how you feel about this issue? So I'm saying we've had our discussion. We can call for a vote. And if you feel like you can't live with it, vote no. So if you feel like you need more time to reflect on it, vote no. So any other question or discussion?
State that my concern is that we're rushing the process, and that rather that we're not following the established process or first and second reading of the policy, so it's more of a procedural practice that we've had in place for a long time that served its purpose. And then call the board's attention to policy 1000.3.1, section 4.8. We will not make snap decisions. Hurriedly passed motions usually do not get the consideration they deserve. It's better to table the motion until the next meeting than to pass one that the board will regret later. So again, just an opportunity to follow the process, long-established process that have served us well in first and second reading of a policy.
So do we need a separate motion to table the motion? We have a motion on the table.
You can fail this motion and bring up a tabling motion.
Okay.
I believe you called for the vote, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Barb?
Director Beckett,
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.,
Aye.
Director Rice,
No.
Vice President Villanueva,
No.
President Walker.
I will vote no in deference to the concerns of Vice President Villanueva.
Motion
So-
fails 2-3.
That said, we will put it
I
on the...
move that we table action item 10 until our meeting on the 28th.
It's been moved to table this item to the 28th meeting and put it on the agenda. Do you want to amend your motion to put it on the agenda? Yeah,
Well, when it's,
Okay.
once you table something,
yeah,
and you have to state when it's coming back onto the table,
right.
by stating the date, that
Okay,
automatically
that
puts it
serves
on the table,
Okay.
on the agenda.
President Walker, I would not be able to attend the 28th meeting, so I'd like to kick that can down a little further.
So the next meeting after that is the 5th.
September.
Go to this.
So no one has seconded the motion to table till the 28th. So
Second.
do you want to alter the second to table till the 28th? So we could alter the motion to table till the 5th.
I'm open to that, but I don't know, are we just playing Donkey Kong here? And wherever the frog lands, that's where it's going to land?
Yeah.
I'd speak in favor of moving to the 5th so that we can assure a full
A
board
full-
presence. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I will amend my tabling motion so that the date for the tabling is September 5th, when this item number 10 will appear back before us.
President Walker?
Yes.
So am I to understand then we'll stick with policy 1400 as it currently stands as we move forward?
Until we've changed the policy.
Okay, then that will cause us to change the dates on the calendar, is that correct, Barb? Okay, so,
That would mean we wouldn't have a meeting on Monday, August 21st,
yes.
correct?
So currently, if we're going to have 4 meetings a month, we would have a meeting on August 21st.
Unless the board president chooses to cancel it, per the
Correct.
current 1400.
Well,
Correct.
we could meet on the 21st to deal with this issue.
Correct.
Because this calendar has not been approved, the one that you're
Right.
referring to at this point in time for
Correct.
meetings.
So if we're by current policy, then we would meet on the 21st.
Could that be a virtual meeting and one agenda item only, since there was a tentative plan not to do it, so.
We could do that. actually would be two agenda items, because item 11 is linked to item 10, the board meeting calendar. So if we could meet by Zoom on the 21st,
I can send that link out for sure.
and
4 o'clock, 4 PM.
4 PM on the 21st.
I think we already have that meeting invitation on
Because
our
we were gonna
calendar, so
cancel
we
it.
should already be planning on that meeting anyway.
Yep.
So there's
so
I can
really
just
no
add a link.
change.
Okay.
So we will,
So I'm going to re-amend.
Amend the amendment to the
Do you
table.
withdraw your second?
I withdraw my second.
I'm going to re-amend so that these, item 10, and because it's tied to item 11, both be tabled to the meeting on the 21st.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion or questions?
I'm done.
Okay, all in favor of amending the motion to table the motion until August 21st?
We just need to,
All
we
in
just need to work on the original tabling motion,
Right.
okay? Because the amendment never got to a vote,
No, that's what we're voting on now.
okay?
So Barb called, I think we're voting on the motion to table till the 21st.
Correct. Director Beckett,
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva,
Aye.
President Walker.
Aye,
Motion passes 5-0.
okay. Okay, and I believe we already removed the policy governance calendar. It does not need approval. So,
Did we?
no,
I think that was just a conversation.
the policy governance calendar just determines when we deal with the policy issues in which meeting. And that's not,
It's a working.
it's a working
It's
calendar.
currently a working document.
Yeah, it does
And by
not,
taking a vote on it, it becomes an official document so that any changes then need to be voted on.
right, so I would entertain a motion to remove that from the agenda. I thought we did that earlier, but I thought we did that earlier.
Excuse me, President Walker, you talked about removing it, but you ended up voting to leave it there.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, we're back to the reason for removing it is that it's not a document that requires an approval. Because then, in
Correct.
order to amend that document, then we would have to bring it up again and again and again. That's just a working document for the board.
Correct.
Okay, so,
I move removal of action item D12 from tonight's agenda.
do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to remove that item from the agenda. Barb, would you call the roll, please?
I have a comment, so discussion be next. So I'm just wondering why it was placed as an action item in the first place, the rationale for that, the recommendation. So there's got to be some reason for that that I'd like to hear. So
I
from
think-
the superintendent, I guess, is the one that submitted the recommendation.
I believe it was in the discussions, it was in the process of dealing with other calendar issues, which do need to be approved, and it was just one of the several items that were talked about as terms of calendar approval, and it was mixed in with those, is how that emerged as a,
President Walker and Board of Directors, it was, that's true, it was in the middle of that, but we also approved it last year. And so we're following on the footsteps of bringing it to the board again this year.
we did approve that last year.
Yes, we did.
Okay,
It's
So
probably
we
the
do
first
need
year
to
we've approved it,
approve it.
was last year.
yeah.
Yeah, if we're going to follow precedents, then
I don't know that I see 1 year as precedence.
Well,
please then.
Nowhere in our procedures does it call that this be approved. because it historically
Well,
has
then we
been.
violated our policy from last year by
Well, then
approving
maybe we
something
did.
that- Yeah,
But
so
historically, this is a working document
I
that
understand that,
undergoes
Director
many
Rice, so,
changes
yes.
throughout the year.
Thank you.
I think the other rationale for having it there was so that the timing of those policies were, we had input from cabinet members on some of those policies in order to make those determinations. And so the timing of putting it in the calendar was to coincide with the need for reports from cabinet members. So that was the rationale. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice, but
President Walker, would it be acceptable to add this to the very brief agenda we have for the 21st, in case there is a reason from Dr. Green for it to be on the agenda, that we could clarify it at that point and act on it then?
I would be comfortable with that. but- Okay. So do we need a motion to do that, or we can
We
do
need
that?
to withdraw this motion and second.
Okay. So we'll
Withdraw my second. I think I
Okay.
seconded that one.
I withdraw my original motion and move that item number 12 be moved to the agenda for August 21st as a tabling motion.
Okay, thank you. That said, we have arrived at our second opportunity for comments from the public.
We need to
I think,
vote on
no,
the
we
table.
didn't.
We need to vote on the table. I need to renew my knowledge of Robert's Rules of Order. Okay, so the motion on the table is
The motion before us is to table
table.
item
Okay.
12.
Okay, and it's been seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, Barb, call the roll, please.
Director Beckett,
Aye.
Director Navarro
Aye.
Jr., Director Rice,
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva,
Aye.
President Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Folks, good. Democracy is messy sometimes and long. Thanks for your patience. We have now arrived at the second opportunity for comments from the public. You need to have signed in. Reminder that you have 3 minutes. The board will not be responding to your comments. Okay?
President Walker,
Yes.
if I may? Thank you very much for waiting
Yes.
for the last hour and a half. I am guessing that a lot of you are here to talk about the new, it's not a policy, I know that's all we've been talking about all night is policies, but the new process to rent facilities connected to public use and private use. And so I would like to preface your comments today by giving you some clarification around that change, and then you can go forth and give some context to why that was done and what is happening. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to Assistant Superintendent Anthony Marietta, who is going to discuss the new facility use rental process.
Thank you. The facility use rental process has always had these rental fees charged to anybody who's wanting to use any facility. The department has chosen to waive the $30 an hour fee to, I believe, the sports organization that you all belong to. But this last year, when our budget goes into negative numbers, when it's the maintenance and custodial services that are tied with it, the department also made a decision to charge because we need to maintain our facilities. I know that it's unpopular. Personally apologize to everybody for the inconvenience that it may be out to you, but the first and foremost use of all of the facilities are for the school. And after that, we try to work with outside organizations to the very best that we can. But if we are not able to maintain the fields, then we're not able to rent them out or utilize them either. So I just hope that you would take that into consideration. As you heard earlier, we have made adjustments to the budget, and we're trying to make adjustments to staffing as we go out throughout the year. And this was one of the unfortunate realities that comes with it. So with that, be more than happy to hear every one of your statements or comments. I hope that can put it into perspective.
Thank you, Anthony. I would just also like to add, and it may not be widely known, but the city of Yakima is in the process of discussing charging us significantly to use their facilities. And that's going to make it difficult for us to pay for high school athletics, for example. We don't currently have fast pitch fields for Davis High School softball. And so if the city starts charging us, that also is going to be a reoccurring cost to the district to use facilities outside of the school districts that we do not have currently. So with that said, President Walker, I will turn it back over to you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, and I'm assuming you've all read the guidelines and signed, so I won't repeat the guidelines. You do have 3 minutes. Barb will be the timekeeper. And first up, we have Mr. Juan Salinas.
Hello, I'm Juan Salinas Jr., and I'm a coach for the Yakima Vipers on the Grid Kids organization. I'm also a Marine veteran, Iraq combat veteran. I served in Iraq in 2 tours, well 3 if you count me, but DOD has a different policy. I'm out here today, just like most of these other people are, that we as organizations cannot raise that kind of money. I know with our little organization, I think raising $6,000 for tackle and $3,000 for flag is like, it's just like, how are we supposed to fund for our own equipment and also for our uniforms and other things that we need? Also, I want to point out, I understand budget falls and budget deficits and all that stuff that comes with it, but if we don't give these kids an opportunity to come out, whichever sport it is, to be the person that they can be, because we don't just teach them about how to tackle and how to catch and all the good things we teach about teamwork. We teach them about being a great individual that leaves our fields. We have boys and girls, we teach the girls that they could be as tough as the boys. I have a hardest hurting running back girl on my team. She's amazing. So this idea that, I understand, like, we got to maintain fields and this and that. And if it comes to asking us to bring our own garbage cans and take our own garbage to help with that, we will do it. We pick up after ourselves when we leave our fields. I know we do, and I know the other orgs do. If it comes to, I don't know, like if you guys need extra maintenance for free, I'll come out in the morning and help you guys out and water the field. I don't know if you guys need that, but I was out in Whitney all spring, and I don't know if they watered it because it doesn't look like it did. Just, haha. But anyway, I know Mr. Walker, I read your bio. I read all your bios on my way over here trying to think how to communicate with y'all. I know you coached for Davis and Eisenhower. I know that you also had an impact on those kids' lives, just like we are trying to do ourselves. I know the Vice President, Villanueva, her statement on her biography says she wanted to make sure all the kids have what's necessary to ensure to graduate. If you don't have healthy mentors right now at a young age that we coach at, because we just opened our D level, which is 6 to 7, so we're going up to 6 to 13, maybe 14. If these kids don't have kind of mentors to teach them about that, and they have to go out in the streets, because we already have a big community of drugs and all the other stuff, and gangs, we try our best to keep them out of that and talk to them about being a nice person and being a great person and having that kind of teamwork and that kind of love for your community. Because this isn't just like about whether it's Vipers, Saints, or Thunder, or anyone else. It's about Yakima community in general. And I feel like we can do better for them, but we cannot sustain if we have to give that much amount. And I hope you guys understand that. And I'll cede my time. And also, wait, before I cede my time, I want to thank you two at the end. I know you served in the Army, so I want to say hello because I read your bios too. Both airborne, I suppose. There you go. Hoorah to you. And I want to thank you all. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up is Aurelino Arue. And feel free to correct me if I say your name incorrectly.
All right, I want to start with, I'm assistant head coach for Yakima Thunder. been doing this now going on 8 years. Throughout the 8 years, we have helped numerous kids stay off the streets. And it's not just about football. We help them with their life skills. We make sure they're staying educated. We give them homework. We encourage them to read books. And it's real difficult to keep that going when you guys are trying to take our location where we can gather away from these kids. Because now we got to go back and brainstorm, like, okay, so where can we actually hold these practices? I got kids, and I'm pretty sure everybody sitting in this audience has kids that participate in some kind of sport. I heard Juan say that we now started at a younger age, which is true, just to help them realize that they got the sportsmanship, they're building friends, and it's encouraging them to talk to their friends, hey, we got a good thing going out there. It's just not all about sports, like I said, it's education, staying off the streets, getting them away from violence. Because if you take the sports out of it, these kids have really nothing. There's very few activities in Yakima Valley that these kids are comfortable going to. And with taking the spot where we can actually gather these kids together and get them together and build friendships and their life skills, it's going to be difficult. And a lot of these teams, it's just not men or young kids, it's young women kids too. You got females on the football teams. A lot of these football teams have cheerleaders. So that is going to hinder them too, because now they have to find a new practice field. And it's not right. Because at the end of the day, win, lose, draw, it's about the kids. It's not about who won the championship or who did this or did that. It's getting these kids to grow up to be successful adults. And it's going to be hard. Our hands are tied. So there's my 3 minutes.
Thank you. Harry Hankins?
I'm not currently coaching. I'm a member of the board of directors, equipment chairman actually. I started with Yakima Valley Grid Kids in 1970. Got about 50 years in. We got a message saying that this policy of charging for facilities had been suspended and that economic things basically forced them to reinstate this policy. And I will tell you that prior to this year, we've never paid fees for renting fields. Never. And I can't understand why our being there should cost the district a nickel. You're still watering, you're still mowing, you're still maintaining the fields. How do we, if we weren't there, are you saving money? I don't think you're saving a nickel. Somebody's looking at us as a source of funds, okay? I think we provide a great service, not just us, any youth sports organization. They're good for the kids physically, mentally, socially. I always say that you take a kid on a team, he has something a lot of kids don't have. It's called teammates, and it's invaluable. I'd appreciate it if you'd drop the thing about charging us rental fees. You're basically trying to push these teams out of the Yakima School District. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Stephen Martinez.
My name's Stephen Martinez, member of the community. I've been coaching with the Yakima Valley Grid Kids Association for 17 years. All of that with the Southeast Saints. It's a part of the community that I grew up in. I understand that the families and people that live there are hardworking people, and I know that when they find an organization or they find a team or a program that they can feel a part of, and that they see that their kids and their families are accepted, and they become teammates and they become, a secondary family. These organizations that use the facilities, it's almost like a need. It's something that has to be a part of the community. It's something that we are asking that you remove the fees that you're looking to charge this coming year and going forward, because that helps families, that helps single parents. That the fees that you're starting to charge, that we all know in some form get passed on, whether the team has to incur it or we pass it on to parents, that just damages community. So I know at some point, maybe one of you or all of you have had some youth or family member involved in youth sports, and the opportunity to play on a team that, the school district hosted. I'm sure everybody appreciates it, maybe more now because all of us are standing in front of you asking you to reconsider. I think that the opportunity that you have in front of you to change this decision is going to be benefit not just for these football parents and coaches that are here or youth sports. It's going to reflect on you going forward so that you understand and people will see that you take into consideration the community and the impact that you have on other people and those around you. It hurts a lot to know that all the effort that goes into getting a season even started, and with the addition of having to now go out and do additional fundraising or going to ask for additional sponsors, it takes away from what we're there for. We're there for the kids. We're there for, the people that come and want to be part of our organization. There's times that we've included parents to come and coach, and they learn something. There are times we're coaching adults to coach kids. So it's more than just the kids. It is a community. It's a family. There's organizations in this town that you live in that need these facilities so that we can continue to do this. I understand that you have constraints, and there are things that you're dealing with and financial-wise and items that, sometimes are out of your hands. But when it comes down to it, it's community. It's these people that live in the town that you live in. And they need this opportunity. They need these facilities so that we can continue to do this and run these organizations and help out. A lot of our teams, preach family. We break the huddle saying family, and that's truly what it is. I have people that I consider family now, 27, 28-year-olds that have kids that still come back and check and want to know how the team is doing that they grew up in. And at some point, if we have to tell them that team no longer exists because of the financial items that you're putting in front of us, That's going to be tough. And where are these kids going to go? I think you're going to hear a lot of this all night long, and I really ask that you reconsider with the fees that you're putting in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Reverend Davis.
To the board, President Walker, Vice President Graciela, board members. I live in that community that they're talking about. I work with all those young people that they're talking about and the families. Why are we trying to put more strain on families that are struggling at the present time? If you would go out there and watch these young people in their practice and when they play, it's a family. It's a family. When you talk about the Yakima Grid kids, they've been doing a great job. It's not only just football, it's mentoring, it's tutoring, it's giving them life skills. And you just heard that parents are learning new ways to deal with problems and situations. I'm asking you, not asking you, I'm pleading with you as a board, as a school district. We talk about community. Here's a chance to bring community together. Take away the fees. Come out and watch what is happening with these young people and with their families. Don't just leave them out hanging out there, nowhere to go. You talk about gang violence, you're talking about re-entering some people that we would lose to gang violence, joining gangs, not willing to be attentive in school. I've seen it work. I work with these gentlemen, ladies, even the young kids. Just on last Thursday, we had a busload of cheerleaders go perform at the Seahawks. That's something that we do. Don't take that away from them. It's giving them life skills. Don't take it away from them. That, you're talking about, what, 10 hours a week? They can do that. They keep up the field. You just heard they'll help water the field, pick up. I've seen it. I go out there. I'm out there with them. Don't take this from these young people. We talk about showing that we are a community. Let's be the community. Let's do what we need to. When I first moved here, 9 years ago, before I even got on the board, Jack Irian opened the gyms and the facility to the organizations free of charge because we were doing the work. Don't stop that. You're paying Kiwanis way more than what you should be for years. So let's be real with it. Thank you.
Larry Nelson.
Good evening. My name is Larry Nelson. I'm the president of Yakima Valley Grid Kids Association. So I was the one who actually received the notice on August 7th that, as of September 1st, that we were going to have to start incurring the $30 per hour on the fields. And so I'm in my second tenure as a president. And so, like the first year, we had difficulty getting fields. They told us that, we couldn't use the middle fields, like the middle school fields. Well, I had wrote a number of letters to a number of people and stirred up a ruckus. Well, we were able to get our fields back. So this year, we kind of experienced the same thing. I received a letter from the scheduling department indicating, hey, you guys can't use the middle school fields. Okay, you guys can use the elementary fields. Okay, so like we may do, there was one of our Yakima teams that I wasn't able to find a field for, so I had to send them down to Union Gap. Union Gap is very accommodating. They want us there. They're very happy for us to be there. They said, you know, we're not going to charge you guys anything that you guys need, you guys let us know. Okay? So I'm the one that actually has to crunch these numbers. Okay, so just kind of a preliminary number. I mean, so with 3 weeks' notice, I mean, we're talking about adding like roughly about $14,000 a year to what we already do. Okay, I'll let you guys know on an annual basis I make $1,000 a year. Okay, and a majority of that I give back to the organization. Just because I care. I've been doing this for 14 years, and I believe in the coaches, I believe in the community, and I believe in the mission. And so I guess I'm kind of perplexed as to how much we actually cost the fields. Okay, so we pay our own insurance. Okay, so for all of our teams, we pay all of our own insurance. We have additional insured like with the school district, so there's really no liability that's incurred to the school. For each of our Yakima teams, I write the check for porta potties that are out there. Okay, so there's sometimes 2 porta potties per field. And so I guess I'm really trying to understand like how much is actually us being there costing the district. And so I'm sure that it's costing something, but we are willing to do whatever it takes to be able to maintain our status level with the fields. Like we serve a lot of underserved population, okay? So I really think that that's something that needs to be taken into consideration. And like we have, you know, kids who can't pay their registration. A lot of the funds that we get in go towards scholarships. So like we actually have car washes that go for scholarships. So like really to think that, you know, we're in this for making money. And so like when I had actually received the email, I mean, you know, they kind of liken this to AAU. I mean, we don't have a corporate office. Like we don't charge $6, $7, $8, $9 a person to get into a game. At our championship games, I can see like the district charging. And so, you know, like when we have our championship games and we play over there at Zephyl Stadium, they provide maintenance. They're taking out the trash and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, you know, traditionally we have paid for that. And so, you know, that's something that was rather unpopular. But I mean, you know, I can see that because I can see that the district is actually, you know, providing some service there. You see the maintenance people walking around and whatnot. So I guess that like I just would like to see for the district to reconsider this policy. And so, you know, this isn't something that, well, I guess I should just say that I think that there may be a way that we can come to some sort of like resolution on this. I don't know exactly what more the like maintenance people are providing, as Harry alluded to, you know, maintenance personnel are already watering. They're already doing those things to the facility. So like us being there really isn't costing anything else. And so just with that being said, I'd like to ask for you to reconsider and help Grid Kids maintain our footprint in the community as we've been. I believe Grid Kids been around since 1957. Harry's been around since 1970. So we've been around a long time, and we're going to continue to be here. We just want the community's help, and we want the school's help. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Mendoza.
evening. My name is Michael Mendoza. I've been a coach for 15 years. I'm currently the head coach of the Southeast Saints with the Great Kids. Before we got notice, and I know a lot of the families and coaches here can agree with me, our biggest struggle has been poverty. Families not being able to pay to do sports, coming up with registration fees, cleats, just the simple things that you need for sports. As a lot of you may know, from grade school to sixth grade, there's not a ton of stuff for the kids to do. We live in a town where there's no extracurricular activities. Once they get to sixth grade, they have limited sports available to them. So we're not just coaches. We help form these kids into student athletes. We provide them with tutoring. We provide them with help with their homework. We teach them how to be model citizens, how to be good people, teamwork, bonding. It's not just coming out, playing sports, going home. It's like the other coaches said, we really push that family thing. We invite the families in, the parents, the kids. Even if you're not playing the sport, they're always welcome to our team functions. Come out, be a part of the family. Like you heard one of my coaches say, we still have kids that come out. Kids that are in high school, kids that have moved on, they come out, they want to help out with the team, they want to know what's going on, see what they can do to help. And that's huge, because you guys putting fees for families that can barely afford to get by now, it's going to be impossible. And basically what you're doing is you're pushing these kids to the streets. You're not giving them any other option. You already know the problems we have with gangs and violence and whatever else may be. So we're putting up gates and locking the fences to keep these kids out of their schools. I mean, a lot of these families are single family dwellings, multiple kid dwellings. We deal with a lot of kids that come from foster families, kids that are dealing with, in the system that don't have any family, don't have any friends. As it is, it's hard enough for them to come out and do a sport. So we give them that opportunity to come out and form those bonds, form those brotherhoods. Not just the guys, the girls, cheerleaders, football players. I mean, this goes across the board with all sports. So, I just, like you've heard from everybody else, we're just asking you guys to reconsider, take this off the table. Don't force these kids to go to the streets. Give them somewhere to go and call home. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam Elizondo.
So my name is Adam Elizondo. I'm the head coach of the Yakima Vipers here in town. And as I sat here tonight, I kind of listened to a lot of stuff you guys spoke about. And what came to my mind is that we all have kind of the same goals in here. We want kids to go to school. We want enrollment to stay up. We want all the same stuff that you guys want. And we're able to do that. I can count every year at least 10, 15 kids that tell me if it wasn't for us, they would have dropped out of school. They would have went and joined a gang. They would have went and, did whatever they had, that the streets would have been calling them to do because they had nowhere else to turn, okay? It's very important that we have a place for these kids to come to. One, because like everyone's saying, it's our home. We have a bunch of good people, a bunch of good men in here that sacrifice their time, their family life, everything that they do for this community. We leave it out there on that field, okay? That's a field that's important to us and that we need, okay? Not just us, the kids, man. That's what we say. We're here. It's common goals, the kids, you guys, us, everybody's here. I've been a youth counselor. I've seen how it directly impacts their lives, the sports, everything that they do all works hand in hand together, We're a community. We're trying to be as one. We need your guys' help on this kind of stuff. We're out here having a hard enough time. There's high heat right now. We can't practice outside. There's smoke in the air some years. We have nowhere to go. It'd be nice for you guys to kind of step up and help us have a facility, a gym to go use once in a while. Like we said, we're more than willing to step up and do all the work, clean up, all that kind of stuff. But if we don't have a place to do it in, it does us no good. Bunch of kids every year we have to raise money for just to pay their way. If you're taking $10,000, which is what it's going to cost us for tackle and flag seasons, out of our pockets, out of the Greek kids' pockets, that's $10,000 out of, of all the kids' fees and stuff that we could be paying for. Just right now, we're fundraising just to get by, okay? We need more money. I have kids that are asking me to play right now, but they can't afford to play. If I go take $10,000 out of what I have, which I don't, and go pay that, that's 10 more kids, whatever, that I can't pay for right now to come play football. So all I want to say is we have a very common goal here. All of us here, all you guys, we need to work together, have that sense of community, reconsider this, and please strongly think about how we all work together and everything relates to one another and how we help you and you help us. And that's all I have. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Roseanne Boone? Rosano Boone?
I'm a team mom for the Thunder. I don't have kids that play football, but when I go out there and I watch all these kids, they're all my kids. They're all my kids. I enjoy the way they get together in the community, and I see so much. I see kids that are struggling at home, struggling at school. They don't have their self-esteem. They don't have self-love. And all of that, these coaches build these kids up and help them along. And there's been kids that are special needs that have been on this team. You know, we adjust so that they can play and be part of something that they can't, they don't think they can be. So it's very important. Raising money, it's rough. Everybody's out here trying to raise the money. You get sponsors, you can only give so much. Everybody's struggling right now. Parents, single family, grandparents raising their kids, bringing them out here. We have Mexican families out here. They don't speak English. We're trying to. All they want is to get those kids off the street, get them off the screen, get them away from the TV, get them away. This is really big, and that money that you're asking these organizations to give you, because you're lacking it somewhere, and I get it. It's a lot. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt these kids. It's going to hurt, eventually it's going to trickle down to you. These kids will drop out of school. And there it is. There's your money gone. I don't know what it's costing, because I'm also listening to you talk about, the money. But, these kids, they need it. And without those kids, you don't get money, and you're defeated regardless, whether they're there or not. It's, so you really consider changing the policy, because it is hard. It's hard to raise that cash, because a lot of these parents don't have the money, and we have to figure out how to come up with it. So thank you so much for your time. Please consider the kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Dale Bronger? Did I say that correctly? Yes, Bronger. Okay.
My name's Dale Bronger. My son Lucas plays for Mr. Mendoza's team, Southeast Saints. He's going to be a third grader at MLK. I heard you mentioning kindergarten numbers. I've got a 4-year-old who's going to be joining you for kindergarten next year. So I think that there's really some kind of significant things that need to be thought about here. When you break it down with this $30 an hour kind of thing going on, which breaks down to, our practices are 2 hours a day, so that's $60 a day times 5 days a week, That's $300 a week. You're looking at north of $1,200 a month. I mean, what that breaks down to really is, you know, something along the lines of what it costs probably for a two-bedroom apartment in rent. And we're only talking about, you know, access to a field for what amounts to about 40 hours a month. You know, we've already heard other people mention that this is a situation where the maintenance of this field is happening whether we're there or we're not. I don't think that we're adding any additional wear and tear to the field. You know, what you have is a grass field that, you know, kind of is self-sustaining. You know, if somehow on a given day or a given practice, there's some kind of thing that happens where, you know, you get some kind of damage to the field, well, it's pretty much going to probably heal itself in a week or two, because the grass is going to grow back and whatever got taken out. I mean, I think that that's a consideration here. I also think that the fact that, you know, we've heard from others here who have said that this has been a long-standing thing. You know, I don't remember his name, but he mentioned that he's been doing this program for 50 years, and at no point has there ever been any fees to pay for fields. So that seems to me that at this point, I understand that, you know, money's an issue, obviously, for everyone, everywhere, all the time, right now. But it feels pretty arbitrary that if we're going to go, you know, 50 years, 60, 70 years of there not being any fees, and then we're gonna roll them out now here in 2023, seems, like I said, pretty arbitrary. You know, I personally, you know, am probably in a better financial position than a lot of people, but I don't think that you can dismiss that, what all's already been said as far as what the real-time effect of this is. If the real-time effect is that you have teams that can't afford to be here anymore, and then kids that are not served by those teams that are not here anymore, you know, that effect is devastating. So I would really hope that everybody here would take it into account, take it into account that, you know, what this, the trade-off is significant. The trade-off for you to continue to forego collecting these fees in exchange for what the benefits are that accrue to the community, I really think that you really ought to consider foregoing the fees. Thanks.
Thank you. Natalia Cipriano.
Okay, so first off, I would like to say thank you to the coaches for all their hard work and volunteering their time. I did write something that I'm going to read off just as I was hearing you guys. So I'm going to start off by saying I'm a mother of 7 with 5 children who are currently still in the Yakima School District with free lunch. So they would highly be impacted. And I'm not the only one that has children, but I'm pretty sure that 95% of the kids that are out there in Grid Kids also get free lunch. Who would be affected by this? I come from a large extended family who has historically struggled with poverty and gangs, just like many of the families who are being affected by this fee. I believe kids are trying to change and engage in positive activities that aren't offered by the school district. There will be a large number of students who you will see like dropping out in the future, just because I actually work with gang intervention and prevention, and so I do volunteer my time in the juvenile. And a lot of the times I'm seeing them dropping out because they ended sports, or because there was no sports, or they couldn't keep up with fees. And I think that you'll just see the numbers drop at a younger age. So the problem will still be there. It'll just start between elementary to middle school. I know that the numbers right now that are in middle school and in elementary are actively engaged that are in Grid Kids. And then once the Grid Kids coaches lose those contacts with them, you guys are gonna see a higher number. And So I think that your numbers would triple. So, and that's all. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all the parents that came tonight and coaches. We do appreciate deeply the work you do with kids and the impact it has on the community. We will not take questions or discuss at this time. This is new information to the board, but we will take this information under advisement, and we will have a response for you probably in about 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, you will hear a response back from the board. But again, thank you for letting us know your concerns, and thank you for taking the time to be here and letting us know what's important to you. It's important to us too, so thank you.
Mr. President, I do have a comment. I'm not going to address anything, but just a suggestion. So I think the concerns warrant a faster response. And I know Mr. Nelson, the president, has offered to meet with whomever from the district to have a further discussion on possibilities of moving forward. So I'd like to suggest that perhaps when our superintendent returns, or maybe the district can schedule an appointment, maybe with HR superintendent, or whomever is appropriate for that, to meet with Mr. Nelson and whoever else he designates to attend with him. So again, I just think that this warrants a speedier response due to some of the challenges that they're facing in terms of fundraising, the upcoming season. You know, practice, I believe, started in July. They're in the middle of their getting ready for the games to start and so forth. And so it does have an impact on what they're trying to do. And I think if they get a response faster or sooner rather than later, I think that would benefit both parties.
Yeah, just let me clarify. I'm not suggesting that it would be 2 weeks to respond to the group from the district, but in terms of response from the board in writing, that's the response I'm referring to that comes from me to the people that were here tonight.
I'm not questioning
yes.
that. I'd just like to see if the district can reach out to Mr. Nelson to schedule
Sure.
a meeting ASAP.
Sure, this will be part of our discussion with the superintendent and his team and where we go from here.
President Walker, if I may, Larry, are you still here? Larry, can you and I connect up here in the next few minutes so that we can arrange to get together and meet with Superintendent Green to discuss what was shared tonight? Are you available to do that? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment from the board? Okay. Moving on in our agenda. Okay, next up we have Policy Governance Board Policies. Policy 1000.4.0. Thank you, folks, again for coming. We can take a couple minutes, yeah. We'll take a 2-minute break and that'll allow folks to leave if they want to go. Okay, we have policy 1000.4.0, and I think we can do these as one. Probably do these as one unit, 1000.4.1. We do 1000. What am I in? 4.0.
I can read that one.
Okay.
Global governance management connection, the board's sole official connection to the operational organization, its achievement and conduct will be through the district's chief executive officer titled superintendent. It should be noted that the board operates in a team manner that involves open communication with all members of the superintendent and district management team. This open communication is for informational and relationship building purposes and should not be taken as a means for the board to direct, evaluate, or unduly distract members of the superintendent and district management team.
Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Any changes or recommendations or concerns about policy? Okay, we're still going to use the SurveyMonkey process for this, through this time, so we'll send that out Get that back to you by Friday
Okay.
to Barb. Okay. So we don't need to vote on it,
No.
approve it, that's first reading. And then second up is 1000.4.1.
I'll do that one. This is very short. Only officially passed motions of the board are binding on the superintendent. Accordingly, decisions or instructions of individual board members, officers, or committees are not binding on the superintendent, except in rare instances when the board has specifically authorized such exercise of authority. In the case of board members or committees requesting information or assistance without board's authorization, the superintendent can refuse such requests, which in the superintendent's opinion are disruptive or require material amount of staff, time, or funds.
Okay. Any questions, additions, amendments to that policy? Okay, we'll send out the Survey Monkey and get that back. Okay, I do believe we have a need for a short executive session, Mr. No?
One, I'll leave it to your discretion whether we should have it or not. I can send out a confidential memo if you prefer, but we could do it probably in 15 minutes if you want to have one.
Let's get it done, because I think this is one we delayed from the last.
Yes, it is.
So, and it's 15 minutes, just updates. Okay.
Yes.
So, we'll go down to the library.
Library?
The purpose would be potential litigation.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. I move that we adjourn to executive session for 15 minutes for the purpose of discussing litigation, potential litigation with our attorney.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we'll be in the professional library?
We're at 9:53 PM. We'll take 10 more minutes at a maximum for executive session. Thank you.
Anything else for the good of the order from the board? Okay, thanks for your patience. It was a long meeting. It was a nice 2 days. Get some rest, and meeting is adjourned.